What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another video of Packers Latest. I am your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news on the green and gold Green Bay Packers. And a happy Wednesday to all of you watching out there. And a huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. To sign up for Underdog, you can scan that QR code right up there. If you place your first $5, you can get $75 in bonus entries. And there's no better time to do it. Championship weekend for the NFL. You got the Patriots taking on the Broncos, and you got the Seahawks taking on the Rams. Definitely an exciting weekend. I'm looking forward to both games. Definitely more tied to that NFC game because the Packers see NFC opponents a lot more and, very familiar with both teams, despite not being one of the two remaining teams. The Packers have seen the Rams and the Seahawks in playoffs in the past. So nonetheless, feel free to sign up for Underdog Fantasy today. Got an exciting episode ahead of us today. Lots of different news, honestly. Had, the past couple of episodes just talking about filling this defensive coordinator role. We'll get into that a little bit later, but wanted to start it off with a little bit of different news than that defensive coordinator talk. Going to start this one off. Trevon Diggs is officially released by the Green Bay Packers. Don't think that this comes as a shock to anyone. Diggs, came in super late into the season, coming over from the Dallas Cowboys after they released him, a possible corner option, I guess you could call it. He really did not play that much, just about 34 total snaps for the Green Bay Packers. And in that playoff loss to the Bears, I believe he played just one snap, which a first down was allowed on that play. So Diggs, it was an experiment. It was, an option that they had, but Green Bay didn't really capitalize on it. Again, who knows how that really went down behind the scenes. But again, to the point of the playoff game, didn't even see Diggs on the field besides that one play. So I would call it a failed experiment. Definitely an exciting name for the Packers to bring in when you look at his history. I know you have to go back to like 2021 for his super breakout season, but his connection to Micah Parsons, little connections here and there. Was an exciting signing, was pretty cheap as well, just around $500,000, even though he was on that very sizable contract, the Packers having to pay just that since they officially released him. So, not too much breaking the bank for Green Bay to give him a shot, but was unfortunate that we didn't see him on the field that much. This is per Spot Rack, kind of talking about why, with the Packers releasing him, what are the benefits from it. It says Green Bay frees up $15.5 million of the 2026 space as they took on no dead cap from this move. That is definitely the main reason why. I talked about this in a couple videos back. Diggs was the most clear-cut guy that was going to be released for the Packers for money reasons. And yeah, here are the official numbers. Trevon Diggs made $531,045 in 34 snaps for the Packers and becomes a free agent immediately. Again, Packers not having to, pay too much of that contract. Pretty satisfied with, just having to let him go. I hate to put it that way, but he truly was just a guy. Now, even if they went all the way to the Super Bowl, he was not going to stay with the Packers. Just kind of seemed like that was the plan, and that clearly was the plan. Unfortunately, Packers not going all the way to the Super Bowl, but hey, nonetheless, an experiment. Didn't work out. Wishing him the best down his career path. It's going to take me into, despite a guy being released, we have two new additions to the Green Bay Packers on reserve/future contracts. The first one, a quarterback. Definitely big talks around this one. Kyle McCord, 6th-round pick by the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2025 draft. Definitely a big name in the college days, playing with both Ohio State and Syracuse. He spent the entire 2025 season on Philadelphia's practice squad before becoming a free agent, so didn't see any time with the Eagles there. He was a former 5-star recruit who did play at Ohio State and Syracuse, and he set the Syracuse and ACC single-season passing yardage record in 2024. And you look at his Ohio State days, he backed up C.J. Stroud before becoming the starter in 2023, where he went 11-1 with the Buckeyes, and he had 24 touchdowns, 2-6 interceptions. So a very successful college career. Was still drafted, late in that 6th round, but hey, some pretty good numbers in college, and I think this is a big, he turns 24 in September as well, by the way, so still very young, clearly, as he just got drafted in this most recent draft. I like this new addition for the Packers, especially Malik Willis. Looks like he's going to be gone. Clayton Tune, he's already gone, so it's really Jordan Love and who else? You're going to have Ritter in there, like probably not, so they definitely needed some form of a backup. I kind of like that the Packers kind of looked at that early. Maybe they'll try to find more of a sustainable backup. It's going to be really hard to replace a guy like Malik Willis and what he did as a backup quarterback, because what he was doing as a backup quarterback was not backup quarterback numbers, if that makes sense. I mean, he was playing like a starter, hence why he's likely to be possibly a starter with a different team next season. You go to the next player, defensive lineman Jaden Crumedy. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, Crumedy. He was a former 6th-round pick of the Carolina Panthers in the 2024 draft. He played in 8 games over 2 seasons with Carolina. You look at his size profile overall, 6'4", 301 pounds, so a pretty big defensive lineman. He's known for his, run defense and kind of gap discipline. More physically, he's not really a pass rusher, but definitely, could be a steady depth piece. Again, this is just a reserve/future contract. Who knows where it goes for either of these guys, but still wanted to mention it because who knows what can happen. Sometimes when guys change scenes, they just end up, kind of doing a little better. I know it was a trade for the Packers, but we go back to the Willis talks. Willis drafted to the Titans. He looked, with all due respect, really, really bad, hence why the Titans were fine giving up a 7th-round pick for the Packers to take Willis, and he blossomed. This isn't the case for everybody. That was just one very prime, easy example to give of it working out well. So again, for both of the names, who knows what they'll turn into? We'll really have to wait and see for a while till the Packers are back out on the field in a couple of months. Before we get into the next segment, got to give a huge shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the gridiron action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick if your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Get them right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the Seahawks game against the Rams, and I might roll with our boy Davante Adams. Curious in the comments down below, who are you pulling for the Super Bowl? Me personally, I'm kind of fine with anyone that's left, but I think it'd be cool if Davante could get a ring. Obviously, we're wishing he could get that ring alongside Aaron Rodgers. That ended up not happening. I think it'd be cool for Davante, after the Packers going to the Raiders and the Jets kind of seemed like his career was fizzling out. He gets to the Los Angeles Rams, and he has revived his career, to say the least. I think it'd be really neat to see him get a ring. So that's what I'm looking at, but feel free to drop down in the comments below what you guys are looking at. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code FOOTBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code FOOTBALLFAN. Underdog, make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-878 or text from 467-369.
I welcome you back to Packers Latest. We've talked about some players. I know I've talked about defensive coordinators and possible names for that over the past couple of videos, but that's the main news swirling around the Green Bay Packers. So let's get into those talks to close this show off, shall we? First name on the board, could Green Bay try to get Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator? He was the former defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, or I should say he still is, but it's looking like he could be on his way out to a different team. This is per JPA Football on X saying the Packers could attempt to lure Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores away from Minnesota for their defensive coordinator opening after Jeff Hafley's promotion in Miami, per Rob Domofsky. Flores was in the running for Green Bay. Flores was in the running for the Green Bay head coaching gig back in 2019 when they went with Matt LaFleur. That's something interesting to note. I know this is a defensive coordinator role, not a head coaching role that the Packers are looking to fill, but still interesting to note that he was seen that highly that the Packers were, he was in contention for the head coach of the Green Bay Packers when Matt LaFleur took over. Kind of looking at his career path, looking at Flores' career path as of recent. Start in 2019, did not become the head coach of the Packers, but did become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, where he was the head coach there from 2019 to 2021. Then in 2022, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, was the senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach, and then he's been with the Minnesota Vikings ever since as their defensive coordinator from 2023 until now. You look at the Vikings ranks this season on defense, and despite a struggling season, but don't get me wrong, ended on a very strong note, a little win streak there despite missing out on the playoffs, just a smidge. That Vikings defense was strong all season long. Their 282.6 yards allowed per game was the third best in the entire NFL and the first best in the NFC. You go through the passing and rushing yards when you break those down, the 158.5 net passing yards allowed per game was second best in the NFL and first in the NFC. And then you go 124.1 rushing yards per game. That was where they struggled, just 21st in the NFL and 8th in the NFC. You go to the amount of points they gave up per game, just 19.6, which was 7th in the NFL and 3rd in the NFC. So definitely the bleeding factor out of all of this, the rushing defense was a struggle, just 21st in the NFL. But man, Yards allowed per game, third in the NFL. Net passing yards allowed per game, second in the NFL. And points allowed per game, seventh in the NFL. That is pretty dang good. And that Vikings defense has so many star players. You got to give credit to Flores, but it's not like he's taken a defense with a lot of random names and making them blossom. It is definitely a two-sided effort. So if he goes to Green Bay definitely has the names for Flores to possibly blossom as well. But if Flores is too much of a reach and the Packers cannot get him out of Minnesota, there is another Minnesota coach that the Packers could be looking at in Durante Jones. The Green Bay Packers did request to interview him. He is the Vikings pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach. This is per Ian Rappaport on X saying, with the Jeff Hafley hire complete, the Packers begin their search for a new DC. They've requested to interview Vikings pass game coordinator / defensive backs coach Durante Jones, sources said. Jones interviewed in person with the Cowboys as well as the Jets. The Giants also requested. So Jones isn't just a name the Packers are looking at, clearly right then and there in what I just read. The Cowboys, Jets, and Giants also trying to get in on the scoop as well. He has a very deep coaching history. I'm just going to read from 2015 on, because 2015 starts with the team in Wisconsin, in the Wisconsin Badgers. He was the defensive back coach for the Badgers in 2015 before moving on to the NFL, where he was the assistant defensive backs coach with the Miami Dolphins from 2016 to 2017, then going on to the Cincinnati Bengals, where he was the cornerbacks coach from 2018 to 2019, and then he has been with the Minnesota Vikings since, with a little stint in between. Starting in 2020, he was the Vikings defensive backs coach. Then in 2021, went to the college route for one season as LSU's defensive coordinator, then came back to the Vikings in 2022 as their defensive backs coach, and then from 2023 on has been their defensive pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach. So lots of bouncing around back and forth on his career, to say the least. But again, another intriguing name, especially when you look at those numbers I read with Flores. You look at, who's the guy that's coaching these defensive backs in that pass unit that was playing so strong with some of the highest ranks in the NFL. It's this guy, Durante Jones, right here. So two interesting names from Minnesota. Definitely, hard when it's within division to truly lure him out. Who knows if these are true candidates? It seems like Jones is more likely of a candidate than luring Flores away from Minnesota to come to Green Bay. But you can never count anything out. But that's all I got for this episode of Packers Latest. Feel free to leave down below in the comments your thoughts on this video overall. Are you happy that Diggs is gone? Do you like the two new signees? Do you like possibly one of these two guys being the defensive coordinator for Green Bay? Feel free to leave it down below. I'll make sure to read all of those. But I appreciate you guys tuning in as always, and go Pack Go.